You are listening to Live Free with Rebecca Packard. With this podcast, Rebecca will help spiritual entrepreneurs and mompreneurs experience emotional freedom so that they can create calm and balance in all areas of their life. If you're ready to release your emotional baggage, trauma, and that constant feeling of overwhelm, then you are in the right place. Your journey starts now. Here's your host, Rebecca Packard.
Hi, welcome back. I am so excited that you're joining with us today. We are talking with Michele Haynes. If you have not checked out 1111 Calling, that is the podcast that Michele hosts. She has been a really pivotal spot for those that are coming into their own consciousness, their own space of holistic practice, and their own space of spirituality. Her show shares a lot about what does that look like for people? What does that look like for the newbie or a person evolving from, well, this felt good at the beginning to, well, maybe this could be better, or maybe this could be different, or maybe this is new. And so we're really excited to have her here. We've chatted with her and on multiple different occasions about really fun behind the scenes things. And so you're going to get to have a conversation with her too. So welcome, Michele.
Why, thank you very much, Rebecca. It's good to be here.
Thanks
for having me.
Yeah, I am excited to have the conversation because you get to talk to all kinds of people about all kinds of fun things. And you guys, Michele is so humble and lovely. I love her so much. But she oftentimes goes, well, I'm doing this for other people. Or she'll say, well, we have the conversation and I learn all kinds of wonderful things. And I'm like, but you're the facilitator. You're learning the things, but you're the facilitator too. So in the space of all of these things, you're getting the information, but at the same time, you are opening the doorway for the conversation to take place. And in that, you're running a business, you are working in another space, you have a lot of different things, you're raising a human being, you're in a marriage, you have all these things on your plate, and you're like the ultimate doer of things. So we're going to have a conversation with Michele today about all of those things, but also about how she's finding peace and sanity and taking the bits and pieces that she's learning in her podcast by being the facilitator and utilizing those in her everyday life to keep sanity, to create calm, to change the conversation, to move from reaction to witnessing. So let's have that conversation, Michele. I'm really excited for it.
Well, yeah, that's some stuff to unpack right there, isn't it? Yeah, I always feel like my podcast is a win-win. Win-win. I don't know how many wins that you can attach to it, but a lot, because I feel like when I already know a little bit about somebody's story, whether it's somebody I've known for years, and I get to welcome them on the show and let them share something that I already know about them that I think is amazing, it gets me all excited because I'm like, oh my gosh, now so many more people get to hear your story and be inspired by it. And then I find that through guests that I'm having, all of a sudden it's like they talk about somebody or something, and I say, well, that's interesting. I'm going to look at that. And then I connect to a new person or idea that I had never experienced before. And so then that's a win for me, and another win when I get to share that. And it's just really fun. And along the way, like you said, I'm learning new tools, or I'm being presented with new challenges for myself or questions that I need to look at. And so it's been an amazing growth experience. It's been really fun. I've gotten a ton of wonderful feedback from people. So it just feels really good to know that other people are enjoying what I'm sharing and being inspired by it. And so that's all like really fun and juicy and yummy. And then, like you were saying, that's my side gig after being a hairpist, as I call myself, which is fun. So I've been doing hair for, well, gosh, since I was 12, but legally and licensed for a little over 20 years. And it's kind of how I got the idea for the podcast, because through being a hairstylist, I meet all kinds of different people and we have all kinds of different conversations, some that I love and welcome, and others that I am like, wow, this person just told me all that. So it was kind of through that experience, I thought, how could I capture the same essence and share some of these amazing experiences and stories and all these different ways that people show up in the world and are called to do things. So that's kind of that. And then again, I have a almost 17-year-old daughter and two stepsons in their 20s and a husband, and I'm the youngest of 9 kids. So I got a big family, and yeah, it's just life, right? And along the way, learning new things, learning new tools, and really trying to implement them so that I can have the most amazing life possible. And just, like we talk about, be, reach my highest good, my highest self, and try to work towards that, and hopefully raise my own vibration and the vibration of the greater. So where do we start?
I love it. I love it. Well, and like, there's so many people out there who either look at their life and go, oh, well, this is what I've been given, or this is how I grew up, or this is what's happening. And I think you're a perfect example of whether you've been in one place and been at your deepest, or you've been doing something for years, or you're the youngest of 9. There's lots of stories there. 9's a big family. Like that's a lot. And so there's a lot of different spaces. And so look at your life, you guys. What is it that you want to change? What is it that you want to do different? You've been doing hair for essentially your whole existence. And now you're kind of like, I know that I don't want to do that forever. I mean, I love it, and I love the joy that it brings for my clients, but like, I can see myself not doing that. And that's like the window of transition that some people fight, and they go, nope, got to do this because this is what I signed up for. So this is how I'm going to go. I'm going to keep doing it. And then all of a sudden you're that hairdresser that people are like, dude, every time I get a haircut from her, she never gives me exactly what I want. Cause like, you're out of your limit. So now you're like, okay, well, I am listening. I'm evolving. I am showing up. And so the universe is giving you different things. A couple weeks ago, I got to be a guest for Michelle in her webinar, which was really lovely. We sat and talked about astrology coming up. And she was really funny because Michelle was like, oh, I don't really know a lot about astrology. I just was really called to this one conversation I had with our favorite psychic, Laura Powers. And then Laura told me, host a webinar. And so I did. And so I think, where are you not listening to the gentle guidance that the universe is giving you? Michelle, in the last 10 years, has really opened up to show me the way. Show me the cookie, give me the candy, let's do this thing. So it doesn't have to be all overnight. It doesn't have to be all, I know everything. If we all just show up as I know nothing and someone else will show me what I need, then I think the conversation of us in the world can be quite lovely. So no matter what your history, I want to have the conversation with you. I know a lot of hairdressers and I love hairdressers, but I want to have a conversation with you in the space of, is it just me, or do most hairdressers neglect their own personal protection?
Yeah, probably. You mean as far as being sponges for people's energies?
Right? Like you're all in there and you're massaging their chin head, and you're cutting their hair, their antenna to the universe, and you're making their like their crown chakra feel good, and their ear chakras feel good, and their third eye feel good, and you're all up in their throat chakra, which is why they're all chatty all the time. Somebody gets in your chair and you're like back there, you're making them feel good, and they're all like, oh, my throat chakra is so open, I'm going to tell you all my deepest secrets of life. I'm going to tell you things I wouldn't even tell my BFF. And you guys are all like, okay, prettiest haircut in the world. But like, do you practice personal energetic protection on the regular, or?
I don't do it as often as I should. And I'll tell you, it didn't even occur to me until maybe, and it was Laura Powers that told me about it, and was like, you can set up a boundary around yourself and shield yourself and you can clear it out. I was like, oh, I do know that. Why didn't I ever think of that? And, sometimes with the busyness of the day, I forget to check in with that. So it's a good reminder again that we're having this conversation because it is so needed. Let me tell you, I have been physically ill from different people's energies for weeks before they even come in, until after they would leave. And so would most other people in the salon. I've had certain clients in the past that not just me, but everyone in the salon knew they were coming. And like for 2 weeks, we were all like, blah, 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 and then they'd come in and it was like the Tasmanian devil came in and just wiped us all out. And then we all like, for like a couple weeks afterwards. So it definitely is a thing. And a couple of things. So learning how, first of all, to not have that person as your client. You can say no and you can fire a client. And you don't have to give too much reason why, other than it's not working. It doesn't feel good for me, or I feel like it doesn't feel good for you. Therefore, it doesn't feel good for me. There's a lot of ways. So that took me about 15 years before I learned I can say no. I don't have to accept this person as a client, nor do I have to keep somebody as a client. So that was one big realization that was helpful, is letting go and not worrying like, oh, but then I won't have the income. Yes, you will, because when you let go of that, the right person comes in. And, even becoming a hairstylist, when I did it growing up for siblings or friends, and I thought, I don't know if I could do that for a living. And I remember a hairstylist saying, you will attract the right people for you most of the time. You'll have some randoms in there that don't feel good, but overall, you're going to attract the right clientele for you. And it's not just about the hair. It's, and that has been true. 95% of my clients I really connect with, I really enjoy, and I really like. That being said, they are all on their own journey. I'm on my journey. Our energy affects each other hugely, in good ways and sometimes in not good ways. So, and some might fit for a while and then they don't fit anymore. And that's come up lately too. It seems like in the last couple of years, like it's like plates in the earth shifting, and it's like, ooh, this isn't a good fit anymore. So there's a lot of that, that goes on. So yes, the grounding, the clearing, utilizing crystals within my studio, having healthy boundaries with clients, as well as, like, right now I work in an independent studio. So I'm just in my own space, but the building houses 75 independent studios with all different kinds of stylists and their different kinds of clients. So that's important to kind of create my own sacred space within my studio for that purpose, and the touch that's involved. So you're right. Like, I do shiatsu points on people during the shampoo, which I've had people like drooling and falling asleep when I do that. But I have to remember that there's that opportunity for energy transfer. So to like say, as I do that and as I'm washing their hair, that I am visually and imagining all that energy going down the drain and out. That's theirs and it goes out. It doesn't have to come into me. And people I think have the misconception that it's just this like lighthearted, fun job. And I have, I can't tell you how many clients I have gone on the journey of cancer and chemo and recovery and divorces and death and loss and pregnancies and miscarriages and weddings and joys and births and all of it together. And it's pretty intense. And the more people, like I can work an 8-hour day. And if I have 3 people that come in with like elaborate cut and color, and I work that 8 hours, it is far less exhausting than if I do 8 1-hour haircuts, because it's the different people. And that took me a while to realize, like, why is that more exhausting when I have more people than, and I'm doing the same amount of work, but it's all those different energies. And so gratefully, Miss Laura Powers put that on my radar, and I've learned better how to manage that. But I mean, yeah, I can pop into that salon and get busy doing stuff, and I have to like stop and remember boundaries, clearing, grounding, what's mine is mine and what's theirs is theirs. So yeah, it's a really good point that you brought that up.
Yeah. And like, if you're like, well, I'm not a hairstylist, and you're listening to this, you might not be a hairstylist, but you might be a teacher, or you might be a bartender or a waitress or a nurse, and you're all service oriented human beings, whether you're the housekeeper or whatever. If you're having an interaction and it's in your workspace, or your massage therapist, especially, I see this a lot with hairstylists and massage therapists, that you're called to help other people. You're called to have those conversations. You're called to show up, and you don't really take into effect the service that you're doing, because you're like, well, this is just my job. Well, but you can show up and do your job, but also not have to suffer, or not have to take on the baggage of those around you, not have to take away. Like, you can clear away. That's what they're coming to you for, because you are the vessel that can do that for them, but you don't have to take it on as your own and your identity. And in that, go ahead.
I was going to say another little interesting tidbit. So hair holds energy, a ton of energy, right? And a couple of things with that. I have hair all over me, in my clothes, in my shoes, in my skin, hair splinters every day that I work. So, to think about, now I'm carrying that hair home into my household. It literally will be splinters in my skin for a long time. How that can impact not just me, but my whole household at that point, right? Another thing to think about with that hair holding energy is hair extensions.
Oh yeah,
human hair. So I have seen known clients, I don't deal with them, but I will order them for them. I don't like to deal with hair extensions. That's not my thing, but sometimes they'll get them from elsewhere, and they will have like crazy experiences or be physically ill for a long time. And I'll say, did you clear the hair? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, that hair almost always comes from India, where it is donated in kind of a ritual ceremony where they take off their hair. Yeah. And then it is sold to make hair extensions out of. So there's a lot that is in that hair that you have no idea the energy in that hair. And then people are just attaching it and wearing it around, and they're carrying all kinds of stuff that isn't theirs, and it's affecting them. So think about that if you're going to do hair extensions. Like, just ask for whatever is not for your highest good to be released, and let it go into the light or wherever it needs to go. And if you want to ask for energy to come in and replace that, which is positive and for your highest good. Sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, it's a thing. I've seen it many times with clients. So that was just another bit about that I thought would be good to add in there.
Yeah, because ritually, if we look back in history, women were called to grow their hair as long as they possibly could, because your hair is said to be the antenna to the space above and in between. And
Mhm.
so not only does it hold your story, and it holds the genetic key of who you are and the story of what that looks like across ancestral spaces, but then in the space of religion, so many across history, you didn't cut your hair. It's only in the past 100 years where women actively chose to cut their hair. And it started as a space of defiance. It wasn't a space of like, let me cut my hair because it's pretty. It was, I will defy you. And I am the ruler of my own body and my own being and my own everything. And so I will cut my hair because I can do that. Even to this day, in some religions, women will never cut their hair. Birth to death, they will have their hair and it will never be cut. And so really think about that when you lean into that space of getting those things, because as much as many people want to say, oh, it's just hair. No, it's not. Everything has a vibration. Everything has a frequency. Everything has a story. Just like you wear red underwear to balance your root chakra, or you put a rock in your kitchen to balance the water energy, hair is going to have an effect on you. And are you carrying your story or somebody else's story? Talked to a lot of nurses. I've worked with a lot of nurses in the past, and I'm like, you are physically touching people and you are getting their being on you. So clearing that and cleansing your space and clearing your space and leaving work at work. A very big thing I've always talked about is when you get to your car, before you even touch your car or get in your car, disconnect from your workspace. And if you're somebody who works from home now, it's a lot easier, but still clear that space, because there's always an energetic conversation. Frequency is an amazing thing. It's everywhere. It's all the time. So I know that a lot of people, the invisible is invisible, and so it's taken for granted, but the invisible is a very powerful space. And if you harness that energy, you'll recognize it show up for you differently in your world. When you started doing that, I'm sure you recognized that home life was different for you. Work life was different for you. You have more good days than bad days.
Yeah, it was like that feeling of heaviness alleviated, or dread to go into work, or almost anxiety. Like I would think, why am I anxious to go to work? I'm a great hairstylist. I know what I'm doing. It felt like one of my first days of working in a salon after being licensed, and thinking, oh my God, what am I going to get? Am I going to know how to give this person what they want? It was like that. But when I already knew what I was doing and had a great clientele, so why was I feeling that dread? And so that kind of goes away, and that apprehension, that fear, that feeling of curious, heaviness that you don't know where it's coming from, it's alleviated. And also that I think too, the effortless free flow of conversation and levity, and feeling of effortless exchange, whether it's what I'm doing technically for like a haircut or color, or whether it's in the interaction with the client. So that felt kind of a levity in that. Yeah. And I think too, other than just grounding, clearing, or bringing things into the space, I feel like plants help a lot in a salon, in a studio space, and I have found that helps. And maybe you would know better why that would be. Why would plant energy, or who'd be really good at that is Shelley Wasicki, why that plant energy also is bringing in an element there, with all the other elements.
Out your water. There's a lot of water and a lot of metal energy in the lawn. All your utensils are usually metal. They're easier to clean. They're less porous. All of your chairs and the mirrors are bouncing energy all over the place. And then you have a lot of water. You're constantly using water because you're washing people's hair and you're washing down stations. So bringing in plant energy is earth energy. It's bringing in a balance of all of your elements. So it's balancing that space of They absorb the frequencies that are bouncing off the metal. They absorb everything bouncing from the mirrors. They also, I don't know if you've ever looked it up, you can look it up online. You can hear the song of the song that flowers and plants sing. All of them sing their own song. They all have a conversation. They all have communication. And there are these people out there who have started to record this, and they'll play it and you can hear it, and they've turned it up so you can hear what the music sounds like. And that alone creates a different connection, a different movement. Also, the space of just their frequency in general, like you take willow bark to ease your headache, that's aspirin. And so like, bringing different ones into your space. Aloe is a healing plant. Like all of these different things have different medicinal properties. They hold different frequencies. They support different elements. Are they supporting a foundation space? Are they supporting air space? Some of them are better at cleaning the air because they're heavier in that element of air processing. Some of them are better at cleaning soil and water because that's where they're heavier in those elements. And so looking at that conversation of, oh, what do we need here? What can this do here? That's why a lot of the times when you see houseplants, moving them around in your house, if they're not doing good in one spot, it could be because that's blocking them. Or sometimes you're overwatering them, but a lot of the times it wants to be somewhere different. It needs to be in a different element of your house. But their plants are wonderful.
I'm wondering too, like what plants, like, can they actually transmute the energy, like, this is coming in feeling pretty blah, blah, and I'm gonna put it back out there. So that'd be interesting research to do, to see about that. That's cool.
Yeah,
they're amazing.
They are. Well, and that's nature. Nature is a constant process, a constant evolution, a constant, you're putting out CO into the universe, I need that to grow better. Oh, you're putting out this energy, I need that to grow better. And then they transmute. And then they and they're constantly evolving and creating dirt and space and air and all these different things. I don't know. Houseplants are wonderful. We have a lot of them.
I know. I do too. I want more. I just
my husband keeps buying more, and I'm like, we don't have anywhere to put those. You know that, right? And he's like,
that's why you buy the hangers, and now you can hang some if you don't have shelf space and floor space.
Everywhere. Right? Boys, put any of them on the floor, they'll get crushed. Well, and in the space of that, if you're not able to bring in a plant into your space, you can play a frequency on your YouTube. You can call in the energy of a plant. You can call in the energy of an element. Are you in a place? I talk a lot about hospitals because it's where I've worked a lot in the past. And I always tell them it's very metal and very stagnant energy in hospitals because of the way that they're all pocketed out and everything. And I'm like, just call in the vibration and the frequency of wind to move the energy. Call in the energy of water to cleanse and clear. Call in the earth energy to create foundation. Call in, you can call in the sun frequency to clean and disinfect. The sun is an amazing cleanser. But when you're in the different workspaces and work environments, having those conversations is important for you, for your clients, for the people coming and going. And if you're an entrepreneur, like Michelle has said it, she said, oh, well, I used to work in a salon with many people. Well, that affected all the other people that were in there. You know? And now she has her own space, but you know what? Her clients keep coming back because they go, I don't know what it is about here, but I really like it. I love Michelle. I love her space. I love the energy. Well, there's something to be said by that. I love the energy. People say that all the time, but they almost take it for granted that that's really what they love. They really do. They love the frequency. They love what's happening because there's a response taking place. There's a conversation, a vibration that's taking place. So use that to your benefit, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you guys. Right?
It's true. It's true. Yep.
Especially if you're somebody who's like, oh, this is how I pay my bills.
That's so true. You know, and I've known people like that before that, you know, I can think of a couple of photographers, like they do great photography, but I just really like being near them because they're like lovely vibration. And I'm like, you're yummy. I want to stand next to you, or, you know, so it's so true. It's going to make a big difference, I think, in your business. And, you know, conversely, if you're going in like with icky, prickly pear energy, you're going to lose clients really, really fast. I mean, I've had those times too in my career where I was carrying around stuff and people, they like me, but maybe they just were ready for a change, you know, and you can see when that happens. And it's like, wait a minute, I need to check in and kind of calm myself on my own stuff right now and look at it a little bit more. You know, that's been a long time since that kind of stuff has happened, but you definitely see it, you know, emotional baggage, so to speak. So make sure you're being clear in your own vessel too as an entrepreneur, because it will have an effect on your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even if you're not the entrepreneur, but you're the worker in the space, just, you want to be happy. You guys, there's two things we do the most in life. One of them's go to our job, our profession, and the other one is sleep. Those are the top two things we do in the world as humans in this space. So make both of them enjoyable. Like I always tell people, get a really great bed because you're going to spend 80% of your life in it. And then, so make sure it supports you. So you're getting the rest and the sleep that you need, but also in the space of your work. If you were going to work every single day, reevaluate, why are you doing this? Are you just going to pay the bills? Well, what are the bills? Why are the bills there? The bills are there because you're shopping so much because you're unhappy because you're going to work. Well, the thing to change is work. Reevaluate that space. Was it your passion? Have you evolved from your passion? Has your passion changed? If you're like, no, I still really love doing what I do, maybe it's time for you to either work in a different space, or before you go jumping ship, clear the space, clear the energy, or hire someone to do it for you. Because changing that, you can go, okay, yeah, I need to shift. I need to not be in this. I've evolved beyond this space. Or you'll go, oh, I forgot how much I loved this. I forgot how this felt. Like, oh, wow, look, I feel like me again, because there was energy there that wasn't you. It wasn't your conversation. It wasn't helping. It was hurting. So I think those are important points for people to pay attention before they go all over the place going, oh, I'm just going to quit and get a new job. Or this isn't life passion anymore. Or, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we get led in a different direction. I think I'm not doing what I thought my passion was anymore. And now this is my passion. So like.
Right. And I think there's a couple of things there. So first, you made me think of I don't know if someone said it to me once or I read it, but it was, you're going to spend most of your life working. So how do you want to spend your life? Mm-hmm. Right. So with that, oh, well, I do have to pay this way too expensive rent and to put food on the table. And I have kids and childcare, and maybe you're a single parent and there's struggle, right? So you have to keep this job that you hate because you're trying to pay the bills. And while you're doing that, be open to the idea of visualization, manifesting, creating that soil within where you can plant that seed of intention to be open to this new way of living and being and working that could come in that you never knew was a possibility. But when you just practice self-nurturing and self-care and kind of tending to your inner garden to make that soil rich, so that when you do plant that seed of intention, like, I want more money in a career that I absolutely love, that looks different than this, that doesn't feel like struggle, that has an opportunity to show up, because I do believe that it's possible. And I know it's possible. And so trying to work towards setting the stage for that kind of shift, right? The other part of that is, sometimes it's like, I do this and I do this and I do this, again, to bring her up again, Laura Powers. It's not just one thing or another. I mean, she's a singer, she's an author, she's a psychic, she's a teacher, she's a business coach, and I'm probably missing a whole bunch of other things, but she, you know, has a lot of passion. So you can do a lot of different things. You don't have to do just one. And maybe you do just want to do one. That's the beauty of it all. It's whatever you want, however you want it to be. I do think it's possible. And it takes practice in those, whether it's tapping, whether it's emotion code, whether it's meditation, yoga. We can talk about all these different tools that you can utilize to then set the stage for drawing in what you want. So I think, and that takes practice. I'm in that right now. Like, I can know things, but doing them consistently and with clear, grounded thought and intention is where the practice is. And that's where I am right now. So I love doing hair, and I have had a feeling for a long time, I'm going to shift to something else. The little downloads or the nudges or whatever. And it's like, what is that? Why? And then it's like, well, why do you keep coming here telling me that? I guess I should pay attention and be open to it, And that's kind of the point of 1111 calling, is that, hey, pay attention to those nudges, even if they don't make sense. Just be open and understand that they're going to take you somewhere. There's a journey, and you don't have to know what this looks like on the other side. And it doesn't even have to make sense. Just kind of go with it and let it be there with you and see what opens. And so I think that can happen with career. It can happen with many different aspects of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and especially in the space of nothing is for nothing, you guys. Nothing is for nothing. So even that job that you're in that you might hate, it's teaching you something. One, it's showing you what you don't like and what you don't want. But it's also giving you either a connection to something that's going to take you to somewhere else via what you're learning, what you're doing, a person, somewhere. There's something that's taking you and evolving you to get you to the next place. There's always a connection. So a lot of people say, oh, well, I regret doing blah, 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 blah. Well, if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't be where you are today. So if you really love where you're at today, then you should thank that aspect, because even though it wasn't what you had planned or what you had wanted, or it was awful or whatever, it still led you to this moment in time. Because if you had chose something different, you'd be in a different parallel.
Yep.
Something
I do
would,
think that's important. You're right. So, recognizing, taking from those experiences, the positives, the strength, the that you gained, or the clarity that you received. And I do think it's important to see what you didn't want, right? And what didn't work. And now I can hone in what I'm asking for even clearer, because, maybe I asked for this 6-figure job and then I got it and then I hated it, or it made me stressed out. So let's hone that in a little bit more. 6-figure job that leaves me time and space for XYZ, where I get to show up, it just helps getting, I think, clearer. And I've used that analogy with understanding what you don't want with some friends that are in the dating scene right now. And it feels so like, I just dated somebody for 3 months and it was wonderful. And then it just kind of fizzled out and they're heartbroken. And it's hard to say, one, it was great practice, and kind of like learning better about boundaries, or seeing more clearly, like, hey, do you recognize now that little twinge of like that you had at the beginning was trying to maybe tell you something, and that you can only see now that you're in hindsight, right? Or you just dodged a bullet. If that person just ghosted you after 3 months, and then you thought that they checked all these boxes, but they just ghosted you, and you would never treat somebody like that. So, hey, it's kind of good they just ghosted you, because it let you know they don't have integrity, and that's not the best thing for you. So a tough pill to swallow sometimes, and we all have these moments in our life. In sometimes every week something will come up, and then you got to think, well, you know what, if I frame it a little bit differently, I can be grateful that now I can see clearer, or I'm not going down that lane anymore. That wasn't going to lead to what I wanted. So, I think it's a lot of different ways that we can be grateful for things that don't feel so great in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Relationships are real funny when it comes to that too. They really show you a lot. And when you look at the workspace and your relationships, a lot of people say, well, I don't get to pick my coworkers. No, but you do get to show up, and you do get to pick how you react in the space. So if you're constantly finding yourself in a conflict with someone in your coworker space, ask yourself first, not necessarily what are they doing, but what are you doing? Because every action and reaction creates another action and reaction. So if you are in the space of continuously fueling that fire with a reaction and a response and a reaction and a response, you're just going to keep chasing your tail. So if you're like, oh my gosh, this person's such a Karen, sorry, Karens out there, but everybody knows that term means these days. But ask yourself, how am I showing up? Am I showing up with pre-reservations about that human being? Do I have prejudgments? What is that person triggering in me that I don't like about myself, or that I find annoying, or that I find to be not my favorite thing? And then see how you can process through that. And then you'll be amazed at how much that person might shift their energy, or just stop interacting with you altogether. And the same goes into the space of dating someone. You hear a lot of people when they go to manifest a spouse, or they go to manifest that perfect loved one, will say all the things they don't want. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's what you're going to
get. Right. We don't ever manifest in the space of manifesting from the space of a perfect job, or a perfect client, or a perfect home, or a perfect spouse, or a perfect anything that we deem quote unquote perfect for us. We don't talk about what we don't want. We only talk about what we want. Manifesting 101, because a lot of people will say, well, I don't want it to have this, and I don't want to have that. The universe only hears, yes, please. Yeah. Yes, please. So it's
I don't want an abusive person. They're like, what? Abusive?
Abuse? You love that? Yeah. Okay, here you go. Yeah. So kind, compassionate, loving, supportive, looking for someone who meets me in my best space. And that's
inspiring.
And all the things, you guys, when you start to go into that space, because I see so many manifestation things out there, and they don't connect with the space of what does emotion look like in that space. And they don't really hammer home only at the positive attributes. It's one of the few places where you don't want to list anything negative. You want to just stay in positive attributes. So really lean into that space when you're manifesting the perfect car, the perfect house, the perfect work, the perfect bed, the perfect spouse. Just what does it make you feel like? Don't try and do this while you're frustrated. Don't do this after your heart's been stabbed by the ex-lover. And don't think about them when you're doing it. Yeah. Because that's the emotion. And that's the emotion aspect. Just really get yourself into a meditative space of like, how is it going to make you feel? How is it going to make you feel in the moment? How is it going to make you feel long term? How is it going to work in your life? What does life feel like in that time? And then all the positive attributes. Because people will be like, well, I was working on manifesting a perfect loved one, and I ended up with blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and where were you doing this? And they were like, well, I was on my bedroom floor, and it was after I had just gotten off the phone with so and so, and we had the ugliest conversation about this breakup, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so let's start off with and they're like, no. So wherever you are in that space of manifesting, remember that. Get yourself centered, get yourself grounded, get yourself attuned to how you want to feel in that energy, and then only focus on the positive attributes. Right.
And I think too, like, it's not like, okay, I'm going to calm down here. I'm going to clear my mind, and I'm going to throw out, these intentions that I want. And then I'm just going to walk out, and the way I live my life isn't in line with that, right? Like, it doesn't work that way. You still got to show up and do your work. You got to show up. You got to give to get that much back. You want the universe to show up 100%, then you have to show up 100% too. So you've got to live in line with what will support that coming into your life, right? So like when we were talking about, or my analogy is kind of tilling the soil and prepping the soil of your internal garden to then plant that seed of intention so that it'll grow. Like, you got to clean up your garden, you got to clean up that soil. And so, you can't just throw a seed out there and then have a bunch of dirt and that's, toxic and such. So, doing your end of the work. And I think that's what we were touching on earlier. And there's a lot of tools and processes out there, depending on what it is you all need to work on. And so one way that you've helped me is, when we're working on that heart wall, working on breaking down that heart wall. And, not only with emotion code with you, and trying to do some tapping around that as well as my meditation practice. And there's a ton of different things that you can implement. But for me, that's what I'm doing, because I want that nice, fertile, beautiful, yummy soil that I can plant these seeds in and help them grow. But that's my end of it. That's what I got to own. That's my part of the work. I can't just think these seeds are going to grow magically without putting in the effort to. Yeah. I think, one of the first things that ever brought manifesting or the law of attraction to my mind was The Secret, and it sounded lovely. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to make a vision board and that's all just going to come into my life. Well, it didn't really work out that way, because I was really angry and bitter and being toxic and all kinds of things. So kind of learning along the way, there's a little more to it. So I think, you're one person that helps in that area. So I thank you.
Yay. I'm glad you're doing the heart wall.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Well, and that's one thing I learned through interviewing. I can't even remember who now it was that I interviewed, but I was like, oh, I know what it was. It was in the creativity and consciousness class that I took with Sarah Rossiter, and you were a guest speaker, a guest panelist on that. And I think we did a visualization or something came up, and I was like, holy shit, there's a big old wall around my heart, and I can't give or receive the way I need to until that. So then it was like, all right, I got to pump the brakes on some of my ambition right now, because I got to take care of that before I can move on to the next thing. So that's where that came up, and just, again, I met Sarah through a class I took with Laura. I interviewed Sarah for the podcast. I then took a class from Sarah, and then I met Rebecca, and see how wonderful that is. What a cool process. And so that's really been where part of my work is right now. And I'm grateful for it, and a lot of what is involved in that heart wall is generational, but some of it is my own past trauma that I thought I was good with, but it's lingering around there. So there's more work to be done. And just being open to those phases of work, I think, is important.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the process of going through working on them and then truly releasing them. So there's some things that we do need help. That's why there's all different kinds of practitioners in the world, you guys, is because we sit down and we go, oh, I'm going to release this, or, oh, I'm going to do this, or, oh, I'm going to manifest this, or, oh, I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing. And then sometimes we just don't have the ability to do exactly what we think we are doing, or we don't have the ability to really get behind it because we're like, ooh, but if I let this go, I'm gonna get hurt again. So we'll push it to the side. If we just push it to the side, then it's not really there, right? But it's still there because we still have that space of like needing the protection, or our subconscious mind believes we need the protection or the connection, or even the conversation that it held for us. And it's like, no, we don't need that no more. We don't need that no more. But when we step into that space of empowerment and 100% responsibility for our own actions, and we go, no, you guys, this is how I want to feel. This is how I want to be in my body. This is how I want to be the vessel that I am supposed to be, and not an imprinted condition or program or situation or event or manipulation or any of the other things that happen outside of us has intended for us. I'm going to take 100% responsibility, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to find the person that can help me, or I'm going to sit down and I'm going to practice the tools to do it. And then I'm going to be me. So the other aspect of all of this is, like Michelle is saying over and over and over again, 100% responsibility for your own choices. Every day is a choice. Every conversation is a choice. Every way you show up is a choice. Every action you take is a choice. So choosing what's of your highest and greatest good before you move forward. What's the thing that's going to help you the most before you move forward? If she tried to manifest all the things that she wanted right now with a heart wall or with this other stuff, it would all come out askew because there's a conversation taking place there that is not in alignment with the bigger picture of her truth, of her vision, of what the vibration that she's looking to obtain. It has a different frequency. It has a different level. It's on a different vortex than where she can make that come to fruition. So taking the responsibility to say, whoop, I see this. Ooh, it's kind of like the Jersey barrier. We're going to move it now. Okay. So also recognizing that, like, you can try and manifest everything in the world that you want, but what vibration are you doing it from? What aspect are you doing it from? Are you doing it from a space of fear? Are you doing it from a space of lack? Are you doing it from a space of not wanting to repeat something that's happened? You are going to just get over and over and over that thing that you're not looking for. So do it from a space of love, do it from a space of gratitude, do it from a space of connectedness, so that you can manifest what you actually want. And it's one manifestation at a time, you know?
Yeah, I think too, being patient with the process, being patient with yourself, being gentle and forgiving with yourself, not biting off so much, because I kind of got into that too. Like, I want to do all the things, I'm going to implement all the tools because I'm just going to set myself up for, great success. And it was like overwhelming. Well, yeah. So just kind of sit with one thing and feel that out and get good with that. And then maybe nibble on a little something else. It's a process, and it doesn't need to happen overnight, and it's not going to be perfect. And it's, be gentle, kind, and patient with yourself in the process is what I would say.
I love that. Well, as we wrap up here, Michelle, if there was something that you wanted to say, if we hung up and you were like, I wish I had said that, what would it be?
Oh, man. Let me think about that for a second here. You know what? I think right now, people need to trust in their inner callings, their intuition, trust in those things that, are categorized as woo right now or kind of out there and weird. Be open to it, and just maybe let yourself try to learn about something that's outside your comfort zone. I think now more than ever, there needs to be a shift in how we're thinking about things, how we're approaching things. I think we all can agree that ways of being, doing, and thinking are not working anymore. And maybe we don't have all the answers yet, but the only way we're going to get to them is if we try things from a different approach. So maybe just challenge yourself to dip a toe into something that you think might be a little bit odd or weird, or that you're afraid if you tell your friend you're going to go do it, they're going to make fun of you. Like, who cares? Just if you got something that you're like, I'm kind of interested in learning about astrology, or I'm kind of interested in learning about crystals, or I want to try motion code or tapping or painting, and I've never painted before in my life, just try it. See what happens. Maybe it's not about the painting or the crystals, but maybe there's something within that experience that's going to open up a different door for you. So just have the courage to try something different. And even if it's a little uncomfortable, that'd be it.
I love it. Do it up, you guys. Like, just lean into that space and just be like, yep, I'm doing this. I'm going to go sit in a salt cave and be silent for an hour. I don't know what it's about, but I'm doing it.
Yep.
Like, you'll thank yourself. I promise. You'll thank yourself. It's all wonderful. Well, thank you, Michelle, for being here. And don't forget, you guys, Michelle hosts her own podcast called 1111 Calling. You will be able to find all of the ways to connect with Michelle in the show description and through the blog that we will share the behind the scenes aspects of our conversation. And you will be able to find the links for those right below this video and on the description page. So thank you, Michelle, for being here. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening. And we will see you again next week.
Well, hey there. Thanks for listening to today's episode. We would love it if you would leave us a rating and review in your favorite podcast player. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.